Stars by Kate Fletcher. Today I'm going to be looking at and comparing and talking about different watercolour mediums that I own. Now it's worth pointing out at this stage that the opinions in this video are purely my own. They are not associated with YouTube, any of the companies listed. It's literally just me talking about what I own, and I have either purchased these with my own money or I have been lucky enough to win one thing I'm going to be using today. So the things I have are watercolour pencils that I bought from B&M just before lockdown, some watercolour pencils that came with the Papercraft Society box, the Spectrum Noir watercolour pens that I won, a tin, it's Royal Langnickel. This was from the range and they are watercolours. I have some watercolour pencils. These are by Statelier. I can't pronounce that right, but you can see. I have some watercolour ink, which was from Papercraft Society. And I have these Boldmere watercolour pencils that were from the Works. So I'm going to test them all out in exactly the same way. I've got my mixed media pad here and I've decided to use this because I just think it's nice paper, it can take the water, and then it's just a fair test across the board, isn't it? So I just open it on this page here. So I also have a watercolour palette in case I decide I need it. I have a watercolour brush pen which I filled with water already, and I also have my trusty coffee jar filled with water because some of the items actually come with a paintbrush. So where shall we start? Let's start with the pencils first of all. Okay, so they ranged in price. These ones here came with the Papercraft Society box. I pay, I think it's just under £19 a month, and then everything comes in the box. So hard to tell you exactly how much these are worth, but I wouldn't think they were going to be too dear. These ones were on offer when I bought them. They were about £5 or £6. These ones, as you can see, were £2.50. And these ones here, I think was £15 or £16. Okay, so let's start with the Papercraft Society ones first, just because it's the smallest packet. So I have used some of these ones already. And as you can see, they are slightly worn down. Now these look and feel like normal pencil colours. They're branded with the Papercraft Society hashtag on them, and that's the only marking on them. So if you were to put these in your stash, we've had coloured pencils since. You could easily grab the wrong one, apart from I believe the pencil crayons were a different shape. So let me show you how these swatch out. So they do feel quite waxy, which is good when you're using a pencil. Let's just, is that showing? Is that in shot? I can't actually see. So it's swatched out quite nicely. There's still, you can see where I drew my original line, but that's not the end of the world. Let's just do a red as well. And we'll swatch that one up. Should have cleaned the brush off. There's a bit of blue in there, but you get the general idea. So they do, when the water hits them, they do react nicely. Now, I'm no artist, so this is literally my very, very limited knowledge, shall we say. I was more looking at comparisons between them. Okay, so that is a little bit on the Papercraft Society brushes, pencils even. As for the look and feel, they look inexpensive. They feel fine in your hand when you're using them. There's not really much to say, I don't think, on those ones. So now let's move up to a brand that everybody knows. Let's go with the Statelier. In fact, let's just write next to these what they were. So this is just a marker that came with Papercraft Society in one of the boxes I've never used. So I'm just going to use that to write in the book what everything is. If you're expecting special lettering, then I'm really sorry to disappoint. I'm really not into lettering. I can't do it. I'm still trying to master that. So that's Papercraft Society. Let's do Statelier. So this one actually comes with its own little brush in the box. It's very hard. I haven't actually used that. So let's bring my water in here. So again, these I have used a little bit. Now these aren't circular like the Papercraft Society ones. These are how you would expect a normal pencil crayon to look. Now these say Noir Aquarelle on them, so I guess that gives it away that it's a watercolour, as well as the fact it has a paintbrush on there. So that's really good, because if you were to put them in a pencil case and mix them up with everything else, not that I'm sure anybody would, but you could easily identify that. So let's see how this one feels to use. Sits in the hand nicely, have no issues with anything like that. Let's just give it a little swatch. Feels nice on the paper. I know that may sound a bit crazy, but it does. It just goes down nicely on the watercolour paper. Right, I have put this brush in the water. I will do it again. There we go. Now it's going. So it is blending out. It's possibly, if you wanted like shading and stuff, it would be a better one to use because of the amount of time it takes to dilute it, or whatever the word is. So there's a gradient. It is balling up a bit. I don't know if that's my technique. I don't know if you can see that. It's blobbing. Okay, so that was using that own brush. I'm just going to use my water brush again. Use blue this time. And I'll bring in my water brush, which I have cleaned this time. Look at that. So I think you can see the difference in the pigments, and again I've used red and blue both time, and I will do that all the way through as much as I can. But there's a difference in the pigment there already, and the Statelier one is more pigmented, I would say. So that's quite interesting. So let's put that brush away. Now let's move on to the B&M watercolour pencils. Now I have to say, when you look at these, they look to me like a really nice premium product. Let's just grab the blue out. I personally really like the black with the gold on the end. It looks special. They are marked on the end so you know which colour you have, and it just says watercolour pencil on it, and then the brand just here. So again, it is a circular one. So let's try this out now. This doesn't appear to come with a brush, so we're going to need my watercolour brush again. Doesn't feel as waxy to me, and I know for £2.50 you wouldn't expect much, but well, it's just doesn't want to blend out at all, does it? Okay, that wasn't a great success. Let's grab a red. I know they were only £2.50, but you still kind of expect them to do what they're supposed to do. Okay, let's try the red. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like an expert painter, colorist or anything, but that's really not happy. I might try this on watercolour paper later, but I would have thought mixed media paper was fine because obviously it's mixed media. So that is interesting how looks can be quite deceptive. Literally, I cannot make those blend out, and I've used the same action as I did the previous two. So that's not great. Maybe it would just take a bit of practice and trying different ways to use things, but I'm not too impressed with that. And I know they're only £2.50, but they're watercolour pencils. They're supposed to be able to, well, do that basically. I had high hopes for those, so that's disappointing. Okay, let's have a change. Let's come to the Royal Langnickel. These were from the range. Honestly, cannot remember how much these were. It does come with its own brush, which is fluffy and not stiff. Now, if you remember the brush that came with the Statelier ones, it was really stiff. So let's see how this goes. Let's get the brush wet. I'm going to go with the red first. So I know people like watercolour paints because you can control like the look you get by the amount of water you add, but it's not something I have done a lot. I've been enjoying the pencils though. Whoops, I really have been enjoying using pencils, and I've been finding it quite easy to control. However, look at that, that's actually, I'm quite happy with that. Blended out nicely. You could actually do shading really well with these. So let's try a blue. We'll go with this dark one. We'll come underneath. Okay, now let's try and blend that out a little bit. Yeah, I mean, what more could you want there? That's really nice. So let's put the brush back in the holder. So that is the ones from the range, proper watercolours. Honestly can't remember how much they were, but they wouldn't have been loads. Let me just bring my water brush in really quickly because I did that with the other one that come with the brush, and just give it a little squiggle on the side. Yeah, I mean, there's no issue there, is there? Okay, so now let's use these ones. So these are the most expensive ones I have. These were from the works literally just before lockdown, and I decided to get these because there's so many colours and I like to have a bit of choice. So that's the top tray and that's the bottom tray. So I'm not sure how I really feel about gold, to be honest. They're a good length though, I will say that. Right, let's find, that's a red. So we have gold and then the colour at the end. They're a decent length. They do say watercolour on them. Let's see if we can make that focus. Gonna work? Nope. How about now? And you've got the brush sign, you've got the brand down here. They just, for the money, they look cheap. I honestly think they look quite cheap for what I paid. And I'm sure you can buy more expensive ones, but I think the B&M ones looked better. We do have a water brush with these. Actually feels really nice. It's a wooden handle, I think. And it feels the nicest out of the other brushes. It's not hard, but it's not fluffy, if that makes sense. So I would say it's in between the other two brushes, but it's soft, so happy with that. Okay, let's grab that red. Just grab their brush as well. Okay, and let's see how this feels. Okay, that is really waxy. That feels really nice on the paper. We use their brush. Okay, so it's blending out nicely. There's no issues there. You can still see where I drew, but that might just be, as I say, my rubbish novice technique. Let's find a blue. I'll come underneath here. I don't know if wax is the right word when you're talking about watercolours, but you can feel it on the paper, so it feels nice to use. Oh yeah, look at that. Mind you, it's now not, maybe I've done too much water, I don't know, it's now like not blending there. It's gone like the B&M one, which isn't good. That's quite disappointing. The red kind of went better. Let's bring my watercolour brush in. Because you'd like to think that these things will work with whatever you choose to use them with, really. It's not really happy with that brush, is it there? It's not. That's not happy at all. It's probably me, to be fair. But look, that is not. They're coming short, but that is not blending out at all. Just give it one more go with this one. Today, maybe it's the paper I've used, maybe it's my technique, maybe they're just made in the same place as the B&M ones. Different branding, different price point, but not actually that impressed with that, to be honest with you. Let's try the Spectrum Noir pens. Now, I did win these. I was very lucky. I won a craft stash competition, and these were part of my prize. Now, when you get these, you actually get some images in the box. As you can see, I've done that one. Not great, but I have done that one to practice on, which is really nice. And you get a couple of blank pieces of watercolour card as well, so that's nice. You get an art liner in the box, which I haven't used, really fine nibbed. I don't know what the actual price point is on these. I think they're under 15, I think. And then they're plastic. Now, I haven't got a red, so I might have to do blue and pink for this experiment. Now, these are this funny shape that they've done. I think they do it across their range. I haven't got much in the range of Spectrum Noir. I've got their Sparkle Inks, and I adore those, but I haven't got anything else really. But I'm sure I've seen like their tri-blends and stuff have this weird shape. Now, to be fair, this plastic, it kind of makes it feel cheap. I don't know how you could do this and make them feel worth the money, if that makes sense. But this just feels a little bit cheap. But they have cool names. Look, we have Kingfisher Blue. Is that gonna? We have Scarlet. We have Alpine Green. It's not going to focus. It's going to be awkward. The purple is called Peruvian Blue, and we have Sunshine in the yellow. So I like the names, and it would be really easy if there was a class and you all had the same things for everyone to know what you're using. They are dual tipped, so you have the brush end and you have the fine bullet nib. So let's use the brush end. They are really nice colours. You only get in the box 5. But look how nicely, I mean, the pigment, you can't say that's not pigmented. So do you know what? If you want to make them look cheap, that's not a problem. But look at the pigment. They have not scrimped on the quality, I don't believe. And that's a beautiful, beautiful blue. Though when I was practicing on the paper, I did struggle a little bit with how much colour to put down, and then blending it out. But I did get there in the end. And I did find they bled a little, to be fair. But I kind of, once I'd got the hang of it, really wasn't an issue. They do feel a bit funny in your hand though. I don't know if I like how they sit. But I suppose you're not really going to put a lot of colour down. And you have to fiddle to get them back in if you've twisted it round. Which isn't great. Just trying to make sure I'm actually in shot. I am now. So let's blend this one out. I mean, they're really, really nice. They're really good pigments. I mean, you can see, looking up the page, I've just put far too much water out there. Whoops. It's going to just ruin that. You can see, going up the page, the difference in the pigments. I think the Spectrum Noir and the Statelier ones have got the best pigment quality, if I'm honest. Okay, so that's my swatches. definitely the Spectrum Noir. Look at the colours, they're beautiful. And the Statelier, great pigment. I think the Papercraft Society, it blended nicely, but the colours aren't as strong, I would say. The B&M ones, I don't know whether I've done something wrong, but I'm certainly not impressed with that. And the range ones, I mean, they weren't pencils, but you can see the strong colours. And then the ones at the works, again, I don't think the pigment's there, which is a shame, because for £15 I would expect a little bit more. So all that remains now is to do the Papercraft Society ink. Now I've only got one, so I can only test one, and it's blue. So let's just drop a little bit on the palette. Now there was a brush that came with this as well. I might just pop off and find. Okay, so this is the brush that came with the kit. It's just a wooden brush. It's quite hard on the end. Now I haven't actually read through the booklet yet, so I don't know if this is more designed for the lettering side of things or for use with the ink, but I am going to use it with the ink. So let's just have a look. So we've got this little pipette. It's already got some in it, so I'm just going to put a couple of drops in there. And I'm going to put that back in its bag because I'm a klutz, and if I don't, I know I'm going to have watercolour ink everywhere. I don't want it. So I'm just going to use the brush first and put some on the paper. That is a really beautiful blue. It looks really dark in here, but once you actually get it on, look at that. That's gorgeous. Right, I've added water to my brush. Look how nicely that blends. That's really nice. And let's use my watercolour brush as well. Yeah, it's fine, isn't it? Okay, so I'd say there's quite a lot of pigment in that as well, which you would expect, being that it's actually an ink you're dropping into a pipette type thing. So now I'm going to rate these based on a few different items. So let me grab a book and I will come straight back. Okay, so as you can see, I have listed all the brands down this side, and then I've put a few headings up the top. So I've got pigment, look, blend and brush. And I will just reiterate, this is literally my opinions, my experience. I'm not associated or linked to anyone that I'm talking about here, and it's not the opinion of YouTube either. Also, I'm not claiming that I am a colourist in any way, shape, form or fashion, so my technique is probably really, really bad. But, you know, things that you buy in shops, you should be able to use whether you're a novice or whether you are a really highly trained artist, or, you know, whatever. So, just get that out there. So, Papercraft Society pencils. The pigment, I mean, it's not great, is it? But it's not the worst, I wouldn't have said. So I'm going to go with maybe a 5 out of 10 for that one. The look, let's just get them out again. So they were round. There wasn't anything amazingly special. They were just own branded pencils. I'm going to go again 5. The blend, well, they did blend out, as you can see. There is a slight mark left on the blue, but again, that could be my technique. So they did blend out, that was fine. So I'm going to say 7 out of 10 on that one. Oops. And they didn't come with a brush. So the Statelier ones, the pigment was a lot better on those, as you can see. So I'm going to go with 8 out of 10 on that one. The look, I mean, they just look like coloured pencils, but it's easily like identifiable as to that they're watercolour pencils. So let's go, I'll go a 6 out of 10. They didn't like blow me away with the look, but they're functional and you can tell like what they are. Blending, they did blend nicely. So let's go 9 out of 10 for that one. And they did come with their own brush, which was wooden handled. It was quite stiff when I started, and it's got the little protection guard on it as well. Tucks down the side. And then we've got the B&M pencils. So the pigment, it was hard to tell really, because obviously I couldn't get them to blend. It looked promising and then nothing really happened. Could be my technique, but I'm not really sure. So for that one, for now, until I've been able to play around some more, I'm going to go 4 out of 10. The look, I really liked the look of these. They looked premium products to me. The black with the gold really worked. So I'm going to say 9 out of 10 for how they actually look. The blend, it could be like what I was doing or how I was doing it, but they didn't, nothing really happened. The blue went green, the red didn't really do anything, so I'm actually going to say nothing for that one. Really wasn't impressed. All those high hopes came crashing down, and they didn't have a brush either. So the range, that was the paint tin. Okay, so pigment on the range paints, it was good, wasn't it? So I would expect it to, because it's actual paints, but I was happy with that. So I'm going to go 9 out of 10 for the pigment on that. The look, I mean, it's right, it's a metal tin. I don't know how you could jazz up paints, to be honest. They just look a bit cheap in there, but again, how do you make watercolour paints look special? So I'm sure there's different things and different price points, but for that and the look, I'm going to go 6 out of 10. The blend, again, they did blend out nicely, and I think this is something I need to revisit and start doing a little bit more of. So I'm going to go 8 out of 10 for the blend, and it did come with a brush. So then we go to the most expensive ones, which was from the works. So the pigment on them wasn't great. I was expecting more based on how much I'd paid, so I'm gonna say I think I'm gonna have to give it more than Papercraft Society. But it's not as good as Statelier. I'm gonna go 6 out of 10. The look, okay, so we do get this really nice tin. Mine was blooming bent out of shape, but you know. I wasn't massively impressed by the gold, but they don't look... I do quite like the circular. I have to say, when I'm using pencils, I like them to be circular. It's just my personal preference. I like that there is 2 layers. And, you know, the brush, so I'm not going to slate them for the look, but I do prefer the look of the B&M pencils. So I think I'm going to go 7 out of 10 for how they looked. The blend, again, could be me. They did blend, just not brilliantly. So I'm going to go... I'm going to go 5 out of 10 for blend. And they did come with a brush. Then the Spectrum Noir pens. Okay, so the pigment on these, super happy with. That's the Spectrum Noir. Loads and loads of pigment on those. So I'm going to go with 10 for pigment. The look... it's just me, but I don't know how you could make them look better, but it just feels cheap, and they're not cheap pens. Well, I don't think like 15 quid or 10 quid is cheap, but that's just me. I'm sure there's more expensive things out there, and I know I won these, but yeah, it's just my opinion. But they're nice once you start using them. Nice to get all the extra bits as well, like the watercolour card and the like test things as well. So for look, I'm going to go with 7 out of 10. The blend, they did blend out really nicely actually, so I'm going to go 9 out of 10, and they don't need a brush because they are pens. So then the Papercraft Society ink, the pigment on that, it was very pigmented, wasn't it? So again, that's going to have to be a 10 out of 10, but it was an ink, so you'd expect it to be. The look, I mean, it's just in a jar with a thingy, so I'm sure they could have given it better packaging, but at the end of the day, you're not paying a lot for the box, so how it came is fine. But I'm going to go with 3 out of 10 for the look because it is very, very basic. The blend, again, it did blend really nicely, so I'm going to go 9 out of 10 for that, and it did come with a brush. So really quickly, let's compare the brushes that did come with the different products. So this one was the one from the Works, that one is Papercraft Society, that was Statelier, and that one was the Range tin. So interestingly, they are all different thicknesses. So this is probably the thinnest one, and this one is the thickest one, I would say. They seem to also, bizarrely, range in length. So the longest one is the one that actually come with the paints, and the smallest one is the Statelier one. These two, well, that one feels really, really nice in your hand. This one, really plasticky. These two, they feel, I don't know, they just feel a bit strange. And the nibs are different on all of them again. So we had 2 really hard ones. That one was hard, and so was the Statelier one. These 2 were quite soft. This one was really fluffy. This was from the Range paints. 2 of them come with protectors. I just find it quite interesting, even on the brushes that they come with, the disparity. It's fascinating. I don't know really anything about brushes, But I just find that quite interesting, that even down to the type of brush they're coming with and how different it can be. So overall, what am I most impressed with? I do like the Spectrum Noir pigment colour. I will continue to play with those, I think. Pencil wise, I'm going to have another go with B&M and the Works pencils. Maybe it was my technique. Maybe I need to dig out some watercolour card and just use that. I think, if I'm honest, the B&M ones look the nicest out of all of them. The paints are probably going to be the nicest to blend. I don't really know what more to say. The Statelier ones are really easy to use, actually. I've been using those quite a bit. And the Papercraft Society ones are really inoffensive. I've used those a fair bit. And I've mixed and matched the Papercraft Society pencils with the Statelier, trying to do shading and stuff. And they kind of worked hand in hand, so that was fine. So, is there an overall favourite? I would say right now, no. I will reevaluate that when I've used them all a little bit more, I think. But I hope you have found this interesting. If you've got any tips on watercolouring, or you think I've done anything wrong on the test, please let me know. I can only get better if people give me tips or tell me. And let me know if you have any of these. Do you have any of these? Do you have a preference? Is there anything you don't like? Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you are all safe and well. I'll be back soon with more videos, so take care and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.